Thank you for asking.
Bless you.
Usually, the first complete sentence that we learn to say as children, and our children learn it on their own, is just one word long. Why? Scientists use words like cognitive in calling a child's curious why the key that unlocks the whole vast world of education to the young mind fertile and facile enough to ask it. Why, Mommy? Why, Daddy? If that truly is such a gateway to learning, maybe in our Christian lives, we don't often enough become, as Jesus said, like little children. Don't often enough dare to ask our God, our Christ, ourselves, why? Why are we Christians? Why should we love our neighbor? Why should we forgive terrible deeds? If we can't answer questions like that, how can we expect our children to feel a linkage with our church? How can our church appeal to young people? The millennials, we call them, who are making their own life's choices, and rarely these days including church in them. What do we as dads and mommies say if our kids ask us, why should I get up on Sunday morning when I could sleep in? Why, after spending 4 more years when I had to listen to lectures, should I come in on my own time and listen to another one? I thought I graduated from that. And then maybe a little later, why should I tap my budget to help pay for a church? Why is not an easy question to answer, but it is a natural one. Old or young, we are biologically inclined to take expectations skeptically. I'm guessing that on Sinai, even if Moses, even he probably had a wire or two flash through his mind. What if he, while he was frantically taking down those notes on those tablets on Sinai, had interrupted God with, just a minute, God, let me get this straight. Thou shalt not kill, steal, I understand. But this covet thing, that's not really doing anything. Going no farther than that, you're considering a sin? Why? If he had, I'm betting that we'd have heard history's first thundering versions of, because I said so, that's why. But even if God might not have liked that particular question, that doesn't make asking why a bad thing to do. Even, maybe especially where God is concerned, where your life and your faith as a declared practicing Christian are concerned. You need to know, to understand, to appreciate fully just what it is that brings you back here every Sunday. That makes you very conscious that there is a straight and narrow way, even if occasionally you misstep. Why did you come to church this morning? Why do you come most Sundays? Why this church? Why? Why? I think if your answer is to go to heaven, it's a bad answer. I don't think Christ wants your Christianity to be something you really don't want to do, but make yourself do for the payoff it will bring. No, I think living for Christ, trying to live like Christ, should be a joy, not a strain. I don't like portrayals of a Christian as a person with face drawn and pained, like the Puritans that we normally see. I picture a Christian as a person at peace. One word connotes the Christian life for me, and in this particular frame of reference, that word is not love, it is peace. Certainly, love is the undergirding of it all. But to me, what Christ tried hardest to teach to us, for us to learn, is how to deal with life's tests and demands, its heartbreaks and defeats, with a blessed assurance, a tranquility, a peace that passeth all understanding, and completely flabbergasts all who know your situation and can't believe you're calm. I believe Dietrich Bonhoeffer knew peace in a German prison, his execution assured. I believe Christ knew peace in Gethsemane. And I'd like to think that each of us has known a time or two in our life when all human instincts demanded that we be furious or distraught or over the brink in despair. But we weren't those things at all. We could take a deep breath, smile, and go on because of our faith. I believe each of us comes into this building each Sunday looking for that peace, expecting that peace, and almost always feels that peace that passeth all human understanding. The benefits are not one way. It's not only what you take away, but also what you bring. It's not only what you give, but also what you get. As part of two or more gathered in his name. This is the one place, the one time in your weekly itinerary where you can see and feel the principle of give and take in action. In your 168-hour week, that period for us from 10 to 11 on a Sunday morning truly can be your one great hour of sharing. Peace. Peace, peace. Wonderful peace coming down from the Father above. That's our why, millennials. And that is God's why. Our why took on a new dimension this week. That very thing, the peace of a church, is why it was so especially painful, so heartbreaking, when a magnificent, hallowed church in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, 9 worshipers who were killed at their Wednesday night service, victims of a hate crime in a house of love. We, with some years on us, have felt this pain before. As this Southern church and this terrible incident moved in tragic history alongside the church in Birmingham, Alabama, where in 1963, racist bomb killed 4 little black girls in their Sunday school. We haven't forgotten that, and we won't forget this. But our peace truly does pass all human understanding, because along the way, Christ taught us the remarkable, unbelievable power of forgiveness. The Birmingham bombing happened just 18 days after Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech in Washington. To me, that Birmingham act was worse. more coldly evil than what happened this week. This involved one depraved, deranged creature of hate. Birmingham was a concerted effort by many Klansmen daring to claim linkage to Christianity, confident of the protection they indeed did receive when justice was put in the hands of their peers. Not for 13 years did anyone involved in Birmingham go to jail. 40 years for a couple. Never for some, perhaps many. That bombing, which could have killed 200, shook a nation, particularly Black America. A few months later, in the spring of 1964, a black lawyer from Indianapolis named Frank Beckwith filed for president and ran in the Indiana primary. He came to Fort Wayne to speak. I was working at the Fort Wayne News Central at the time. I was assigned to cover the speech at a church on the city's south side. About 30 people were there. Mr. Beckwith was a bit late, so we all sat in the church basement, talking informally. Of course, Birmingham came up, and a lady, maybe in her 40s, said, with her face contorted in rage, "I believe in Dr. King. I believe in nonviolence. But if I had been the mother of one of those little girls, I'd have gotten me a gun and shot every white man I saw." Now, as the only white person in that building, I was happy she wasn't armed. But I also fully understood. By then, Julie and I had our own little girl. And the thought of such a sudden loss to such insidious evil was paralyzing. What came to me just as clearly through that mother was what a remarkable hold Dr. King had on Black America, what almost holy respect people had for him in restraining very natural instincts for striking back and retaliating. It was a control through Dr. King reaching to Jesus, to patience, to turning the other cheek, to forgiveness. The very faith-based discipline that we saw on Friday afternoon in a Charleston courtroom, where anger and bitterness are much more common. There, belief in the teachings of Christ, expressed in forgiveness, came through stunningly from the truly Christian people of that shaken church. America had gone to bed Wednesday night or awakened Thursday, wishing it could somehow help those poor people of Charleston. By Friday afternoon, the people of Charleston were helping America. Interesting time period, 2 days. Rather like Good Friday afternoon to Easter Sunday morning. That quickly, before our eyes, hope in America was resurrected, or should have been. That bleeding, hurting mother church is now an American shrine, It will draw people to Charleston, to its sanctuary, as Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, the home church of Dr. Martin King, Luther King, did with Julie, Jane, and me in 1996, 28 years after Dr. King's assassination. I still feel the chill today from entering that empty church on a weekday afternoon, sitting silently in a back pew, looking at the pulpit and feeling an omnipresence and a humbling sense of being unworthy of such access to divinity. God has a way of sending the right message through the right messenger at the right time. It was Longfellow, lifted from Civil War despair by the ring of Christmas bells, who wrote, "The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men." That is the promise Luke tells us the angels made in announcing the birth of Jesus, the Prince of Peace. We know that, we feel that, we hope that, and when we awake on a midweek morning and hear what happened in a Charleston church, and on Sunday morning, safe in a church pulpit, I am asking you to go beyond Charleston, look beyond Charleston, keep a resolute faith, and forgive. I can't blame you. If you want to shout back, "Are you kidding? Forgive?" Do you think Jesus was kidding when his body was being savaged, when his life was being taken by a vicious mob? From the cross he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Do you think those tear-stained people in that Charleston courtroom were kidding? In the quiet of a church, that's where those 9 in Charleston had gone for midweek sanctuary. That's where those 4 Birmingham girls had gone for the childish fun of Sunday school. Those calming words of Jesus, "Father, forgive them," tell us the reason for genuinely loving our neighbor, for truly believing. Before the agony of the cross, before his own ultimate test, this man Jesus revised the age-old laws of Moses for his growing number of followers and said, "Turn the other cheek, forgive." He said it and he lived it. He made it so clear, so often, it became our 11th commandment: forgive. The forgiveness he taught gets daily tests, not at extreme times like these. Mother Teresa wrote, "People are often unreasonable and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. If you're kind, people may accuse you of ulterior motives. Be kind anyway. If you're honest, people may cheat you. Be honest anyway. If you find happiness, people may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good you do today may be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Give the world the best you have. It may never be enough. Give your best anyway. For you see, Mother Teresa wrote, in the end, It is between you and God. It was never between you and them anyway. And it never is. And that's a good thing. Because playing by God's rules, by listening to Jesus, as he explains those rules in parables and the way he lived and then died, you know the right thing to do. The right thing to do right now is to mourn the loss of people whose last fatal act was doing what I argue for today. They went to church. It is absolutely right to pray for God's touch, to settle on those people who best knew those 9, who loved those 9. But we can see they already feel that touch. In the words of his one and only Son, who said, "Father, forgive them." Father. On this Father's Day, we all, fathers, mothers, sons and daughters, turn to our one Father above with our gratitude and our needs. We turn to the one who said, "Honor thy father." We honor that Father with our belief, our trust that there really is a God's plan, that things as impossible to understand as the happenings this week in Charleston are woven into a pattern of beauty, a pattern of love. That's why we're here. That belief and that trust. We've heard the human expression of futility. 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And since the crucifixion, time and again we've seen God's plan work in just the opposite way. 1 jolting step backward, then a giant leap forward. With faith, a setback so often turns out to be a propulsion forward. A bonding, uniting experience, as it was for America at Birmingham, and at Memphis with Dr. King's murder, and as it already has been at Charleston. We rebound from a loss with a heightened zeal, a determination to ultimately win. That's the race we're running. That's our why, millennials. That's our why, America. You can see it's pretty powerful, pretty satisfying, pretty reassuring why. Thank you. And now, please stand.